Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Janet Jefferson. Today, we're talking about the Maryland Chamber Foundation and the Teacher Externship Program. Joining us is Whitney Harmel, Vice President of Membership and Development at the Maryland Chamber of Commerce and Maryland Chamber Foundation. Thank you so much for being here today, Whitney.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To our viewers, please feel free to submit any questions or comments that you have in the comment section, and we can try to get to as many of those as we can. Whitney, let's jump right in and let's sort of start with just some of the basics. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about what the Maryland Chamber Foundation is and the role that it serves in the community.
Sure. So thank you again for having me. It's an honor to be here and to be able to talk about this incredible program that we have through the Maryland Chamber Foundation. The foundation is actually the research and development arm for the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. So the Chamber of Commerce is a 501c6 organization, and the foundation is our 501c3 nonprofit, and we focus on two pillars, and those include education and workforce development.
So education is a big a part of what you do. And so that's really what I want to talk more about today and hear a little bit more about the teacher externship program, which on my end I'm learning about, and it just sounds fascinating. Can you just start at the beginning and tell us a little bit about the externship program? So what it is and how it came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 4 years ago, our foundation was stood back up after being dormant for a number of years. And we were looking for a few pillars to get behind. And again, education and workforce development were the two that we chose. And we did some research across other state chambers to see who's really engaging in these areas. And we discovered the teacher externship program being done by 6 other state chambers across the country. And we looked at those best practices and we decided, how can we make this really work for Maryland and Maryland businesses and Maryland teachers, Maryland programs. And when you look at the marriage between workforce development and education, they really do go hand in hand. And so the businesses have certain needs with this next generation that's coming into the workforce. And then the education system is intended to help prepare those students, right? And so taking a look at those best practices, the teacher externship was developed in late 2018. And then we launched our pilot program in 2019. So really, it was only about 18 months ago that we had our first cohort of teachers go through the system. And it was a trial by fire to some degree. How can we find business partners to get active and engaged? And then how can we find teachers who are really going to match up with those business partners? We did, and we had a really successful pilot with 3 teachers. And we went for it in 2020. And I really got involved last November and decided we're going to try to kick it up pretty quickly here. And then we did. And so we had another really successful program in 2020, even despite the COVID-19 pandemic. So good things to come for 2021 as well.
Yes, I certainly hope so. Could you talk just a little bit about the typical experience? So what does it look like for a teacher who is in the externship program? Sort of how long are they involved, and what does their sort of day-to-day look like? What's the time commitment? What's the experience actually like?
So it's so funny. This question is great because it's typical, and I think, gosh, is there a typical externship and experience? But I would say the framework is very similar from teacher to teacher. So the framework itself is, we have a business partner that commits, and I work with them to develop a really robust 4-week schedule. So it's typically during the month of July, and we wanted to be cognizant of the fact that teachers are working so hard throughout the year. And then they also need time to relax and recharge themselves. And so we didn't want to do a whole summer program, but 4 weeks is the framework. And typically they are working 40 hours a week within that business. And so obviously things changed a little bit this year. 2 of my teachers had full-time virtual experiences. So they were at their home, at their computer most of the day, but I worked very closely with the businesses to create, that really robust, pretty intense schedule for them. And then two of my teachers were in the field a majority of the time with their business. And so there is no such thing as typical. It's really dependent on the business partner, what divisions they are, able to provide and show. So if I can give an example, I think it would be really helpful. We had an amazing partnership with Baltimore Gas and Electric this summer.
Hmm.
And when I met with them, they specifically asked me about a plumbing instructor. And when you think about BGE, they're the people that come out and check your gas leak, or they put your electricity back on when something has happened at your home. And quite frankly, there is so much more that BGE has to offer. And so when they asked me for a plumbing instructor, one, I was shocked. And two, I thought, well, gosh, I hope I can find a plumbing program in Maryland. And little did I know that Mervo High School in Baltimore City actually has a plumbing instructor program.
Huh.
And it just so happens that the one plumbing instructor that applied to the program was the gentleman that they had been working with. And so it was just really an incredible match. And so Kiwei Shelton, who is again with Mervo High School, he spent 4 weeks at BGE this past summer. And he did everything from go in the field to see how they actually put our electricity back on after a storm, for example. He worked directly with some of the training facilities in White Marsh, Maryland, up in Baltimore County. And then he was, in the field and in the office and working from home throughout his entire externship to better develop the program at Mervo, to really create a talent pipeline and to create opportunities for these young people who are coming out of high school who may not be college bound. Not all of our students are college bound, as you know, and to give them a direct pipeline into a career where not only can they make a living wage, but they can excel beyond that as well. So huge success story from this summer. So typical is not typical. And I actually really encourage my business partners to think outside of the box. And during the pilot program, our teacher from Baltimore County, Chris Bunn, spent his time at Stanley Black & Decker. So again, this is about 18 months ago. And they were so thoughtful and creative. They actually sent him to the headquarters in New England, where he was able to spend several days with leadership at the New England location, which really just coincided with everything he learned at Towson. So, I just encourage my businesses to think about different ways that they can engage in multiple levels.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like there's some really specific things that people are doing. Like looking for a plumbing instructor is very, very specific. In terms of teachers that are participating, what kind of teacher are you looking for? Is there a whole range? And I know you're targeting specifically high school, but would like a general science teacher be someone who could participate? Or are you looking for something a little bit more technical?
Yeah, great question. So we are actually partnered with the Maryland State Department of Education, who has been tremendous throughout the last few years of not only getting the program up and running, but helping to support us. And so our target teachers are public high school teachers across Maryland, typically in the STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. As well as CTE instructors, so those career and technology educators that are starting to really get some life back into these programs, which is amazing to see. And then this year we expanded the program to include high school counselors and career counselors. And so one of the pieces of feedback that I received in the past year was, we may not have a good fit in our business for maybe I'm an insurance company and I don't have a good fit for an engineer or something of that nature. And so we started to think outside the box for 2021, and we're looking forward to welcoming some of our counselors to the businesses as well.
So this is really a wide range of opportunities. So not only within the sciences, but also, as you said, the arts, and then now counselors as well. So that means you're really looking at a wide range of businesses as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We don't want our businesses and potential partners to feel limited in any way. One of the things that we've been hearing here at the Chamber for a number of years is talent pipelining issues, and
Hmm.
children not necessarily coming out with the skill set that's required. And so it doesn't matter if you're an engineering firm or utility or an insurance agency, we're hearing the same needs across the board. And so how can we reach as many students through adult mentors, these teachers who are living this experience and then able to take that back into the classroom. And I think when we expanded it this year to include counselors, that broadens it even more. I mean, these
Hmm.
are really, really trusted adults in the lives of these, young students, and to have an opportunity to reach hundreds of them through one teacher is the goal of this program.
Hmm. We talked a little bit briefly about the type of teacher that you're looking for, in terms of being working at a public school and being within the STEAM and CTE and now counselors. What are the other sort of qualifications or requirements that teachers need to fulfill to participate in this program?
Yeah, so we actually launched an online application process through the Maryland Chamber of Commerce's website, and we have about 15 questions that we ask the teachers to answer. And in answering of those questions, we're really looking for thoughtful, feedback, and you can really see the teachers that are extremely dedicated to the outcome, which is the students having more opportunity, right? And so to better understand the priorities of the teacher when they're in their classroom and the relationships that they have with their students, and how they can use the lessons, in the classroom to showcase what's happening in real Maryland businesses today. Those are the types of teachers that we're looking for. And,
Hmm.
and so the application process helps us to do that. It doesn't matter how long they've been teaching. So I have teachers who are in their first year, all the way through, our teachers who have been there for 30 years. And so we encourage all of those in the STEAM, CTE, and counselors to apply. We do have a special focus on Title I schools. We want to make sure that our underserved and underprivileged communities are really getting an opportunity to experience, again, this 4-week program, this really immersive program, right in their own backyard.
What does the flip side look like in terms of businesses and organizations? What are you looking for in your partners? And same thing in terms of what requirements or qualifications are you really hoping to meet?
Yep. So our businesses to date have tended to be more of our large anchor institutions in Maryland, but you don't have
Hmm.
to be. You certainly do not have to be. I don't know that a micro business would necessarily benefit from a teacher externship because it's typically an employer who is going to be hiring more, I would say, in the next couple of years or has a large growth path. But the businesses who have, as I've mentioned, talent pipeline needs, or maybe they're just struggling with recruiting, or they are growing so rapidly in certain areas. When you look in Montgomery County, for example, and even to some degree in Frederick and Baltimore City, what's happening in the biotech and biopharma space,
Hmm.
they can't get kids graduated fast enough
Right.
to get into college to then come back to Maryland to be a part of these organizations. It's really unbelievable. And so what I tell my business prospects is you have to have an internal champion.
Mm.
I need to work with someone who is passionate about this 4-week process because it is so much more than 4 weeks. We say that it's a 4-week program, but the truth of the matter is the really successful businesses and teacher partnerships that happen are going well beyond the 4 weeks. And so
Mhm.
my teachers, especially from this past summer, are still in touch with BGE, with KCI Technology, Stanley Black and Decker, and Leidos, and they're continuing the conversation. The goals include the businesses, well, it's not required, but the businesses coming into the classroom to talk to the students, to teach them about lessons learned through their teacher or whatever their teacher did that summer and what they experienced. Ideally, there would be, when things are a little bit more back to normal, uh, field trip opportunities.
Mm.
And so the relationship between the business and the teacher, we hope will continue years beyond the initial teacher externship. And so I would say having a deep-rooted passion for what happens in your community and what happens to this next generation coming up through the school system. If you have that in your heart and that's something that you care about in terms of being a Marylander, then this program should at least be interesting to you. And then having that internal champion to work with me to create a really robust and meaningful 4-week opportunity for the teacher is really vital as well.
Mhm. So you touched briefly just on what that relationship looks like between the teacher and the organization, and a little bit about what your vision is, whether that be field trips in the future or, continued correspondence or site visits to a classroom. What are you requiring of teachers and organizations, both during the externship and then afterwards? And maybe what are you requiring, but then also what are your hopes and dreams?
Yeah, no, great question. So I would not say that we are necessarily requiring anyone to remain in touch. That's a hard thing. It's a
Mhm.
hard thing to do. It is an absolute ask, and we set the standard from the beginning. That's really what I think everyone should be looking for. It's not necessarily what the Chamber Foundation is looking for. It's what true partners, I think, in this mission are looking for. We have a new global sponsor and partner that I will hopefully next week be able to announce that is absolutely changing the game of this program and will launch us to new levels in 2021. Through their partnership, we will be doing more data collection. We are partnering with a regional university to keep track of the teachers, to provide additional programming to them, additional opportunities for their growth as well. And so there's more to come in that area, Janet. I'm hesitant because I don't have permission to share it yet, but
Absolutely.
I do believe, heading into year 3, that we have a very clear opportunity to showcase what's possible
Mhm.
through these relationships, and then to actually have data to be associated with it. And so that is my hope in year 3 coming up, that we'll be able to have more of a conversation around that. But in terms of requirements, it's really, for me, it's about the passion and the desire to make sure that relationship continues, and that the conversation in the classroom from
Mhm.
the teacher to the students. But we will start on data collection and how this had an impact on students in the future.
Mhm. How are you matching teachers and organizations? So you talked a little bit about the plumber, and that the sort of the beauty of the universe came together to align those two. But in general, how are you matching the organizations to the teachers?
Sure. So we're actually matching the teachers to the organization.
Gotcha.
So when you think about the Maryland Chamber of Commerce and what we do, we advocate on behalf of business issues. And so our relationships lie, for the most part, with the businesses. And so understanding their challenges, their needs, that's something that my job entails every single day. And so when I'm working with, and I'm going to use KCI Technologies as an example, they are a $500 million engineering firm up in Sparks, Maryland, in Baltimore County. And they are really in need of surveyors.
Hmm.
It's, and you think, my gosh, is that still something that's needed? Absolutely. I can name a half a dozen businesses right now in Maryland who need surveyors. And so surveying isn't necessarily on a lot of people's radar anymore,
Mhm.
but it is a required job at so many of these engineering firms. And so they partnered with Baltimore Polytechnic Institute in Baltimore City, because they used to have a surveying program.
Hmm.
And so we were able to work with Sharon Lindsay, who is one of their mechanical engineering teachers. And she is now dedicated. I'm telling you, this woman is incredible. She is dedicated to trying to bring back surveying program at Poly. The 2 of the previous instructors at Poly from the 80s happen to still be there, and she is working with them, as well as her principal at her school. And we're hoping Baltimore City Schools to bring back this program, not only for KCI Technologies, but for the other engineering firms in Maryland who are looking for that skill set. And so it's this amazing, this business has a need. They remember partnering with Poly 20 years ago for this particular role within the organization, and the need hasn't changed.
Hmm.
The pipeline has gone away, the talent has gone away. The schools have moved on to other programs as the times have continued to change in terms of technology. And so I would say that I have a supply and demand issue.
Hmm.
I
Mhm.
have all the supply, I have the teachers, I have the passion and the desire from the teachers. It's the businesses, right? It's the businesses that I'm really looking for
Hmm.
to help provide that opportunity to the teachers. And so when the business has a need, the great thing is I have about 200 teachers for them to consider. And we often tell teachers, we want you to look in your own backyard, or excuse me, the businesses, pardon me,
Hmm.
to look in your own backyard. Who can you impact directly in your county, in your local area, so that we're creating opportunities for those students who may or may not be going to college, but who often will come back to Maryland or stay in Maryland, assuming that there is a livable wage opportunity for them.
Hmm. So you mentioned that there has been a lot of teacher interest in this program, which is really exciting. Um, are there plans to expand? And what is the goal that you're really shooting for in terms of number of externships in a year?
So absolutely expanded, 100%. We never want to remain stagnant. We are always looking to innovate. We are always looking to create more opportunities for the businesses and for the teachers, ultimately the students. And so year 3, that pilot program was 3 teachers. Year 4, we had 8. And then the world changed and we, to put it lightly, and we were still fortunate to have 4 businesses move forward. This year so far, for 2021, I have 14 um, opportunities. I am expecting at a minimum 20 to 24. I'm very hopeful, and I'm hearing from my business partners and even my prospective business partners from last year that they anticipate that their offices will be open next summer. Of course, we will remain agile if we need to go full virtual with some of our programs. But this particular summer coming up, I think we have an opportunity to accelerate in a way that even we didn't expect to. And again, we have some new and some incredible business partners that are coming on who are seeing the value in this and choosing to get behind the program. So I might have 150, 200 teachers and maybe only 24 opportunities, but when you go from 4 to 24 in a year, it's a pretty significant increase.
Yeah, that's some serious exponential growth.
Yeah.
Um, so with that, what are your hopes in terms of what is the Maryland Chamber Foundation hoping that the outcome of this externship program is going to be? So what are the goals that the chamber is really looking for?
Yep. When you look at how it's structured at business and teacher, I think people can potentially get caught up in that. But at the end of the day, it is about the students. It is 100% about the students because ultimately what affects them affects the teachers and affects the businesses, it affects their families, the economic stability of the state when people are staying here, living here, thriving in Maryland. And so the ultimate goal is that the exponential growth will trickle down exponentially to our students as well. And so we've had 7 teachers go through the program. This year we'll have at least 14, I'm hoping 20 to 24. And when you truly look at the number of students that one teacher can impact in one school year, and then you take that down the next couple of years and they can continue to develop the relationships with that business that maybe they had an externship with 2 or 3 years ago and continue to innovate and continue to bring these professionals into the classroom, we have a real opportunity to affect the lives of thousands of students across the state of Maryland and tens of thousands over the next couple of years. I think we can change the conversation and we can truly bridge that gap between what businesses need and are looking for, what our teachers understand, because often they go from the classroom to the classroom. Not all teachers, but most teachers go from the classroom to the classroom. And to no fault of their own, they don't have that real world business experience. So they don't always know. How would they? I don't know how to go into a classroom and teach a lesson plan for a week. Oh my gosh, nobody would want that to happen. Truly, nobody would want that to happen. But we can't expect our teachers to know what's available unless they've experienced it themselves. And truly, these teachers are trusted by their students, by the parents of the students, to guide this next generation in a really positive way. And so when you can see what could really happen in the next 3 to 5 years if we have exponential growth year over year and the number of students that could be impacted, it is what keeps me going every time I have a day where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't I can't do any more today. When you think about the impact, it is so tremendous. I just see it. I don't know how else to describe it to you, Janet.
Yeah, I see it almost as giving teachers this incredible power of almost being able to see into the future. So by creating this relationship with these businesses and these organizations, it's giving the teachers the know-how of what they need to be teaching their students to be successful. And not only that, but the relationships that will be successful as well. So as kids are exiting high school or moving on to whatever's next, whether that be a career or more education, it's giving kids a place to look to and be inspired by, and then really a job. And as you said, if their goal is to create this talent pipeline, it helps kids have that focus and provides them that sort of mentorship and the expertise in terms of the resources as well, which I think is something that we do sometimes lose sight in our education system. That education can feel a little bit abstract and set aside from the actual workforce. And I know that that's something too that kids really crave, students really crave, is having that concrete, like, how is this really going to help me in the real world? Like, I'm just learning algebra and I'm not going to use that. But it's like, no, this is really important. You need this. And this is giving you that real world experience. So it sounds like a really powerful resource and enabling teachers in a way that maybe they haven't been before.
You're so right. When I interview, I'll try to do like a 10 to 15 minute interview with every teacher. So my business will often select, 5 or 6 prospective teacher partners for the summer. And I'll do an initial interview with them before passing them along to the business. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, the teachers will say to me, gosh, Whitney, I can't tell you how many times the student says to me, Miss Lane, when am I ever going to use trigonometry?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. And so Carolyn Lane did her externship at Leidos this summer in the cybersecurity division. And she's like, Whitney, I can now go back and tell, maybe not trigonometry, right? She teaches math, but different types of math. And so she said, I can now go back and I can tell my students, this is why it's important. This is why group projects are important. And everything from, they used to call them soft skills. I think now they call them life skills. I'm not really sure, but just these skills that I don't know if they've been lost over time because of how social media has infiltrated and things like that, but they're just not as taught in our school systems. And it's exciting to hear the excitement in the voices of my teachers. So I stay in touch with them too, and how they're implementing these lesson plans and how it's having an impact. And so I hear it, I get to experience it with them, and we look forward to telling more of that story as we progress.
Yeah, that it is really exciting. You mentioned that this is a program, and there are only a few other states that are doing this in the country, that 6 other states. How's the Maryland program different than those others, or how is it similar? Sort of like what are you taking from them or stealing from them that's working really well? And then what are maybe you tweaking or changing to make it more sort of local and successful in this area, or just better in general?
Yeah, I don't want to say better because we're so grateful for their help. It is, but I will say it's really robust. Some of the other states, maybe their externship is only a week long, and the teacher spends 5 business days and then I don't necessarily know that they get credit for their time. So the way that our program is structured is the business will provide funding. So the business makes a donation to the Maryland Chamber Foundation. And then our teachers earn a $6,500 stipend, which is a very, I think, healthy stipend for 4 weeks of their time. So that is, I would say, vastly different than some of the other externship programs across the country. So our teachers earn a very healthy stipend. They have a very robust 4-week program, and we really program manage it all year. And this is an all year program for me. I'm in it almost every day. It ended, and we were immediately thinking of how we were going to, continue for 2021 and make it better. And so I would say that the states that have done it, they originated the program, and so they may continue to evolve as well. But I would say we were able to really learn from both what they did and felt was really positive versus what they would do differently, and tried to really infuse that into our program. So some of the programs are a little bit longer, but the teachers might only be on site 2 days a week. We really, really honed in on what are the businesses looking for, and then how do we best fit this into the life of our teachers as well.
Well, thank you so much, Whitney, for speaking with me today. It's been really exciting to learn more about the Maryland Chamber Foundation and this teacher externship program. Thank you to all of our viewers and listeners as well. Make sure that you visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for up-to-date local information about health, family, and living for today's Maryland parent. Whitney, let's I'm going to grab from you some links, and we'll make sure that we post them with this video. So link to the Maryland Chamber Foundation page and to the externship page as well. And then you can find those links on our page. And this episode will be archived on ChesapeakeFamily.com in both video and podcast format. I'm Janet Jefferson with Chesapeake Family Life and Third Floor Views. Thank you so much.